the Cubs want to do it. They want to win, but they kind of want to do it in a cute way.
The hipster way.
Yeah, they want to do it in a hipster way.
We're too cool for the big power bats and the guys that throw 100.
And this is why I kept talking about them bullying them hoes at the end of last year. You don't have to do it the hipster way. You could actually do it the way that the Dodgers do it, that the Yankees are trying to do it. You have the resources, but
The Red Sox,
you refuse. And I'm not sure why that is. Why it's like, well, we're gonna build a team that's really strong up the middle. Okay. What's the focal point of that? Oh, a catcher that had an outlier season last year and is not even on the team anymore. Or a center fielder that you're not quite sure, but he's very good at playing center field. The other stuff is still a question. And now he's playing more center field than you would like because he doesn't hit well. So yeah, you're strong defensively up the middle, but the two guys that are in the middle that make you strong defensively, offensively, aren't doing jack.
So last night, before that moment that Pat Hughes described on the score that you heard coming in, Jim Deshaies and Boog Shambi were watching this unfold in front of them, and JD mentioned something that certainly raised my eyebrows.
This is where you really appreciate the value of those guys coming out of the bullpen with that high-octane stuff that just keep the ball out of play. Not like the Giants are having great swings in this inning.
Mm-hmm. That was a moment right there.
You'd really love it if you had a guy that threw 99.
Right. Wouldn't it be nice in a Major League Baseball game to have one of those guys that comes in and strikes people out because, he throws really hard? For all this crap that we hear, velocity doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Every mile an hour of average fastball makes a huge difference in whether or not somebody is out or not. It's enormously important.
That was Jim Deshaies speaking for every Cubs fan. That was what I've been thinking every time a starter comes out. Anytime Justin Steele or Javier Assad or Shota Imanaga has a hell of an outing, that's what I think. Like, oh, here we go. They don't have anybody after this.
They put in these soft tossing nibblers that have to be afraid, or they bring in a guy
that's a team name, soft
tossing nibblers, or a guy like Neris whose best pitch ends up being a ball, and then you have to rely on Leiter, who you work until his arm falls off. And you're asking Ben Brown, well, this guy he can fill in as a starter and as a reliever and a high leverage guy. Well, he's hurt, so.
And you didn't go to Hector.
This idea too, and I know people make fun of me when I say, obviously half facetiously, just hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah, you make it a lot easier than it actually is.
What I mean is construct your team so more balls go over the fence, and that means paying for power. Home runs are expensive. You don't have enough of them. Go to the home run store and buy some of them. Some of it might, you get to organizational approach. You get to, this is the kind of hitter we want. We want, none of these all or nothing guys or 3-2 outcome guys. There is a way the Cubs have decided to build their team. Little decisions along the way have resulted in not enough home runs and not enough velocity.
Well, it's what you said, earlier. It's like, it's very simple, the things that win games. When you look at the successful teams, power and pitching, and as the Cubs entered the season, they looked around like, do we have power? We'll gamble on it. Doesn't really look like it, but maybe. Do we have pitching? And we've got some good people in the rotation, but we'll see. Nothing that made you feel good about the bullpen or the offense to start the season, and that's just the story is unfolding before our eyes of a failed season.
There are times when, and I know that the payroll itself is high. Like, I know that. And I know that that's part of the reason that you're seeing the Cubs do what they do. I just wish that over the last 4 years, that Cubs fans at the beginning of a season would have confidence that the team would do whatever it took in the offseason to make fans feel confident about their chances. None of this, because the last couple of years it's been, well, if they get off to a good start, maybe then at the trade deadline, the Cubs will add. And then people are like, well, let's start looking at all the bad teams around baseball and see if maybe we'll end up with Pete Alonso because the Mets are bad, and then the Mets are now better than you. Well, let's try and find some power from somewhere else instead of when you had the opportunity of finding power in the free agency market, you balked at it. You walked away from it. And the thing that I've been most concerned about, at least over the last 6 months, is this. You have an opportunity in this division while the Cardinals are down. Well, guess what? Too late. Because now they've figured stuff out too, organizationally. So now you're not just contending with the Brewers, who organizationally seem stronger than you, even with you taking away their manager. Turns out the manager they have, pretty good. And so now you look up, and while the Cardinals were down for a year and a half, you haven't done anything.
You've assembled a pretty good starting staff that you're cashiering with a crappy bullpen. And you're not giving your solid starting staff enough runs to make their lives meaningful.
And no run support,
That's what I mean.
not to
That's what I'm
mention.
saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Cubs are in last place behind a team that's not trying. The Pirates aren't trying. They've got a couple of really interesting prospects, but they're not trying to win anything. And we're halfway. This series will be the halfway point for the season for the Cubs. It's early anymore. Like, that's over with. So now you've got to spend the second half of the season, if you do feel like the collection core of your team is good enough to compete, you got to start tracking a lot of teams down. And what I hate is that I wonder if you gave them True Serum, if they would tell you that the division doesn't matter as much to them because of the randomness of the playoffs. It just feels like they're always playing to kind of be in contention for a wild card spot because of all the randomness and the variance in baseball, instead of saying, why not take the advantage that we have, that no other team in our division has. We have our own network. We are printing money. We are the Cubs. Why don't you act like the bully on the block in this division? I'll never understand it until they do. That you have a chance to do that. You could just say, we're going to buy the Central Division. We're going to buy it. But you don't. And it's like, well, we got this record player and we got some mustache wax. That's what we got. We only like vinyl. You know, digital downloads would be easier, Jed. Yeah, but there's a soul in the vinyl.
Vinyl sounds better, okay? It just feels more comfortable.
getting to the
Vinyl is superior.
Are the Cubs a Wes Anderson movie?
Kind of.
where it's twee and adorable, and I don't want to watch it.
Kind of.